We now cross live to Ekiti State, where our colleague Rufai Osini is standing by for an exclusive interview with Governor Kayode Fayemi.
All right. Thank you so much, Abby. It's good to see you again. Happy New Year. And it's more than a joy seeing a lot of people out here from Ekiti State, Ado Ekiti to be precise, the Ekiti State capital. And on the heels of the life and times of Desmond Tutu, we've got somebody here that was right in the trenches with Desmond Tutu, that saw it all, that fought for that Nigerian part of our struggle against the military in this country. And he's a governor currently in Ekiti State, and he has so much to say. And it's the very first interview this year, so may I say, Your Excellency, Happy New Year, and great to see you, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, the governor of Ekiti State. It's a pleasure having you.
Happy New Year, Rufai, and welcome to Ado Ekiti. It's remarkable you're spending your first day of 2022 in our state, and may the year bring bountiful blessings to you, all members of Arise, and your family.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you here.
And to you too. So let's just go straight to it. You know Archbishop Desmond Tutu so very well. I mean, tell us those experiences. Tell us what he stood for on the African continent for you.
Wow. We could use the entire interview session on that, and a whole book could be written on it as well. Archbishop Tutu was just a phenomenon. He was an irreverent defender of the defenseless and a passionate voice of the voiceless. I first met him in February 1996. I had gone as an advance party for the Nigerian exile delegation. This was in the heat of the Abacha military regime in Nigeria, and NUPENG had been on strike. It had been put down. Newspapers had been shut. Guerrilla journalism was rife. We were running Radio Kudirat and all that. And Professor Soyinka was to lead a delegation. And I had gone in advance of that delegation himself, Bolaji Akemi, and some of our colleagues also from Nigeria were meant to join that delegation. Mr. Lisa Bakoba, IOB, the representatives of the labor movement, and so many of us. Because there was a Nigerian South Africa democracy support group that had emerged out of the struggle of Nigerian human rights and civil society organizations for return of the annulled election in Nigeria, the 1993 annulled election. So that was what took me down to meet with members of the Democracy Support Group and to also meet with the government in preparation for Professor Soyinka and the leaders' visit. And I recall my first meeting with the Arch in Bishop's Court in Cape Town in the company of Professor Kole Omotosho, a Nigerian novelist and professor living in Cape Town in South Africa at the time. And we had seen members of the government at the time. I recall Aziz Pahad was the deputy foreign minister who had met Isop Pahad, his brother as well, in order to get to Deputy President Thabo Mbeki at the time. But there was a reluctance on the part of Deputy President Thabo Mbeki to meet with our group, even though President Mandela had promised to light the fire under the Abacha dictatorship in the wake of the murder of Ken Saro-Wiwa and 9 of his colleagues at the time. So we went to see the Arch to solicit his assistance in ensuring that South Africa lived up to the promise of President Mandela. And he said, but of course, I'm going to do that. What is happening in Nigeria is unconscionable. And there's no way someone like me, who knew the role Nigeria played in order for us to attain our own freedom, would mollycoddle the Nigerian dictatorship. And from then on, he started working with us, promised to talk to the people in government, and also work with the Nigerian South African Democracy Support Group. I met him several times after that. But his most critical contribution to Nigeria, just to go to that, was when we started campaigning for the establishment of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Nigeria in the immediate aftermath of the Obasanjo government in 1999. Prior to that, once General Abacha died, we started campaigning for truth-telling, for what we called truth and justice. And my organization at the time, the Center for Democracy and Development, we had embedded with the gracious support of Archbishop Tutu. We had embedded one of our staff, Sonny Oyebula. He works with the UN now. We had embedded him in the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So he was there as a fellow for 6 months and learned the minutiae of everything they were doing, how they were going about it, and wrote a report for us at CDD on the possibility of setting up an equivalent commission in Nigeria. So we sold that to President Obasanjo, and he was very gracious. President Obasanjo could see the point. It was set up. Justice Tutu was made the chairperson. My good friend, Bishop Matthew Kuka, was a member. The former governor of Adamawa State, Bala Ngelari, was a member, and a number of other people were on that truth panel. They had no clue how to go about their work. That was how I came into the picture, and the CDD came in as technical assistant to the Oputo Commission. And the first person I turned to was the Arch, who was very supportive. First sent us a volume, 7 volume of their report. They had just completed the exercise at the time. And also promised to come for a retreat we were planning for the Oputo panel to try and get a sense of their assignment and how they should deliver on that assignment. But in the end, he couldn't make it. He had to send some of his colleagues. I remember Dumisa in Sebeza and Klengiwe in Kize came. They were commissioners at the time at the Truth Commission. But we also had other people from other countries like Chile that had undergone the same process. And Sonny Onyebula, my colleague that I mentioned, was then seconded to the Oputo panel. So he spent the bulk of his time. I believe Bishop Kuka had written about this in Witness to Justice. If you read his book, a lot of what I'm saying. And every time I was in Cape Town, I would drop in to see the Arch and have a cup of coffee. Would ask about Nigeria. It was just amiable, full of humor, very, very principled, but light-hearted. So it would make even the hardiest person feel comfortable.
Right. That's a great insight as regards the Archer, as it's been laid to rest today. But we have to move on quickly to many issues because it's the very first day in the new year, and 2022 will bring its own headwinds. There are global headwinds for Nigeria. Interest rates are going to go up in America. The Fed is saying interest rates will go up. We've got COVID-19 pandemic, ravaging economy. There are a lot of headwinds on the international scene. There are elections here and there. There are elections in France this year that might tip the balance. There's a move about right-wing nationalism and some other parts like that. How is all of that going to affect Nigeria?
Well, we are, of course, monitoring all these developments. The economy is central to everything that we're about because that is what would give the people a feel-good sense. And there's hope and optimism in the air that 2022 is going to be a lot better than what we experienced in the year that just ended. And clearly, issues around the headwinds in the world would impact Nigeria. It would impact, for example, oil prices. And that's our major commodity that then services our own economy. There are also other local issues that we have to grapple with. Oil subsidy or no oil subsidy in the wake of Budget 2022 and the promise that by mid-2022 we may not have provision for oil subsidy in the current budget that we have. On the pandemic, I just think the pandemic has become an epidemic. It's just a flu now. And I mean, when you see the figures that are being bandied around in Europe, 300,000 infections in a day, there's just no way, unless we want to completely paralyze the world economy, we will keep focusing on the pandemic. Luckily, if one might call it that, the Omicron variant has proven to us that it is not necessarily something we should worry too much about, especially if you're vaccinated. It's no longer the death warrant it used to be with Delta. So we might as well just get on with our life, take vaccinations as we used to take flu jab, and begin to run life as normal. Taking the necessary precautions, of course, but if we continue to allow the pandemic to disrupt travel, to disrupt employment, then the economy is not going to pick up. The prediction is that we would have a GDP growth rate of about 3% average in Nigeria. I hope we do better than that. I hope the result, when it comes out, would be what we saw Q4 2021, that 5% that we grew by in Nigeria. But well,
that's another argument that people put in.
That's another argument. I agree. But we need to do things that can then ensure that the economy generates the necessary impetus for it to grow, but grow with concrete development, not just grow in isolation.
All right, so let's narrow down to African headwinds. There are going to be a lot of headwinds, on the African continent this year. I think IMF is projecting sub-Saharan African growth about 3.8%, but we also have democratic headwinds. There are going to be big elections coming up in Kenya. Ruto is pushing in deep. There's going to also be big, and Raila is pushing back. There's also going to be big elections coming up in Libya. Saif, the son of Muammar Gaddafi, is there. I mean, how would all of this headwind culminate, and there are going to be elections, we will still narrow down and talk about the elections coming up in your state, for instance, this year. So the African continent, what role will Nigeria need to play in all of this? Or how will all of this affect Nigeria as it terms inter-African trade, AFCTA and things like that, and, symbiosis?
There's a sense in which I think Nigeria is pulling very much below its weight. I mean, there are expectations of Nigeria in all of these African developments that you highlighted. And a lot of the times people want to hear the Nigerian voice and take a cue from that in order to address other things. Mr. President did that when he spoke against third term in Cote d'Ivoire, in Guinea before the coup, and refused to congratulate those who had emerged in their country via third-term elections. And I think this is the kind of role that people want Nigeria to play in Nigeria's in the African democratization process, but also realizing that this democratization itself is a process. It's not an event. And we're always going to have undulating lands, we're going to have valleys, we're going to have potholes, but at least let's ensure that the journey is a linear one, because it's a journey. It's not a destination, but it should be a journey with concrete markers of progress that people can see improvement in their lives. Because if it doesn't make a difference in the lives of the ordinary people, they really don't see much difference between a dictatorship and a democracy, including even the freedom that we all bandy about. That, okay, at least you're free to say whatever you like. If I'm free and I can't eat 3 square meals or live a decent life of worth, I would begin to snigger about the worth of this democracy to me. And I think that's something that we've seen in Africa. If you look at the last 2 decades of democratization in Africa, we're seeing reversals. But we need to work on those reversals in a way that we can witness more of consolidation, even if that consolidation is incremental and not as rapid as many of us would love this to be.
But a lot of Nigerians are going to say, it's easy for you, Governor, to say this, and we're upset with you. Why? Because they pointed the governors. In fact, the National Daily pointed you and some other of your governor colleagues that influenced the president not to sign the electoral bill into law.
I don't know about influencing the president not to.
That's the talk.
That's the perception, but there's a lot of misperception out there. People assume that President Buhari is just a dunderhead who does not have a clue what he is doing. I mean, we should give the man some respect. He's been Minister for Petroleum, General Officer Commanding, Governor of what is now 6 states, the Northeastern state, Military Head of State, President second time. If for nothing else, at least he is imbued with a lot of experience. There's no doubt that President Buhari is an advocate, a passionate one at that, of direct mode of primaries. I know that that's how he feels about this, but he's also a product of both direct and indirect mode of primaries. I had the privilege and the honor of being the chairman of the convention that produced President Buhari as the candidate of our party in 2014 December. And it was an indirect primary. It was a delegate primary. But in 2018, 2019, when he was coming back as president, he emerged via a direct primary. So he is not an opponent of direct primary, neither is he a promoter of indirect primaries. He outlined what he thought should be the approach, which, as currently exists, resides with the political party to decide whether it's direct or indirect or consensus. In Ekiti, the first time I emerged as candidate of our party, it was via direct primaries that took place in all the 177 wards in the state. The second time when I came, I emerged via an indirect. So we should not assume that automatically direct primaries is a cure-all solution to whatever malfeasance we feel exist about our democratization process. It is obviously more inclusive, theoretically more inclusive. But what we have also seen in Nigeria in the last few years of what we call direct primaries, look at the figures. We've just had an experience in Anambra State, and we saw what happened there. In my own party, we could not even muster the number that we claimed our candidate had in the direct primary. We could not muster a quarter of it in the real election. And the direct primary, so-called, was a primary of our own members, not the entire state, the voters in the state. And then in the real election, we ended up with 40-something thousand. Clearly, there's a mismatch here that we need to address.
Okay. But a lot of people are arguing on the flip side of it that the electoral bill wasn't really about direct or indirect primaries. That was the doing of the politicians sneaking that in. That it was about electronic transmission of results.
And did not object to that. If you read his letter to the National Assembly, sir, President Buhari only spoke about direct or indirect, meaning if you were to remove that clause, I wouldn't see any problem with President Buhari signing a revised bill.
But this is what the people are saying out there, once bitten, twice shy. We all know how the president went through this prior to the last election. They are afraid he wouldn't sign it. They are afraid that the politicians, the governors for their own interests, the lawmakers for their own interests are fighting at the expense of the people.
Debunk this theory of governors being the ones that influence the president. The president has a mind of his own. Governors may have their views, just as National Assembly members had their views about it. I think what is important is President Buhari's commitment to a democratization process. And one thing he keeps saying when you go to him, or even publicly, is that he would like to leave a legacy of an improved electoral system in Nigeria. So don't let's second guess him. If the National Assembly do the right thing by addressing the issue he has raised in his response and his refusal to assent to that bill, I have every...
You think he'll sign it?
I believe he will sign it.
Believe in the sign?
But they should do it quickly so that there's no time lag in that process.
Recently, civil society raised about many other points as regards that bill, cross-referencing and some other errors, and the National Assembly should incorporate that before they finally send it to him.
I think it's a great idea. If these are issues of typographical errors, issues of wrong cross-referencing, I wouldn't see a problem if the National Assembly is genuine about the process in acknowledging what the civil society has said. Besides, civil society has been working with them. Groups like PLAC, groups like Sami Todo's organization, Yaga Africa, and my own old organization, CDD, they've been working actively with them. So these are people who want to positively influence what is coming out of the National Assembly, and I think they should take heed.
Okay. So let's talk about your political party, the APC. What's going on? You know, you've been through a transition phase. There's Maimala Buni that will be leaving in the new year. What's happening as regards to your political party? A lot of people say these are the fractures in your party. A lot of people say your party is fractious. Not me saying this. A lot of people are saying this out there. What's it?
Rufai, any thriving, living organization must have contentions. There's nothing wrong in people having contentions. And if you look at political parties all over the world, you will see people that are called the wets in the Tory party and the drier wing of the Tory party. You see people that will be referred to in the Labour Party as New Labour and others as Conservative Labour and the Socialist Labour. These are tendencies. They're not fractions. And if you are a political party without tendencies, you are a dead organization. I don't see any problem with people holding views that are contrary either to the mainstream view in the party or that represents a body of opinion about how they feel, about how things should be run in the party. And there's a lot of that in APC. We applaud that. We cherish that as long as the big picture, which is the unity of our party, the strength of our party, and our capacity to deliver elections to our party in 2023 to consolidate on the gains of this democracy and address the gaps that are in our democracy. There shouldn't be a problem with that. And we have a convention coming up very soon to put in place an elected executive of the party.
Where will the consensus tilt towards in the convention?
I have no idea. I mean, I've been seeing billboards of people who want to be chairman of... Who are you going to be supporting? Who am I going to be supporting?
Yeah, the chairman of the party.
To that conclusion yet, because I don't know whether we even have a full panoply of all the people running yet. We need to wait and see who would come out and what the platform is. What platform are they running on? What difference do they want to make in the party? How do they want to help APC regain lost grounds and consolidate on our, if you like, popularity? At a time that a very popular president may not be on the ticket. He's not going to be on the ticket.
All right, let's speak about your popularity. Recently, the Minister of Information brought out sort of like a scorecard in the last year of what you've achieved. And a lot of people said that's not robust enough, that nothing has been done. You know, he talked about some successes, PIA and the likes. But what a lot of Nigerians are saying is that we've got over 15% inflation rate in the country. That's double the CBN target. We've got massive poverty. People can't get a job. Unemployment number 33%, 33.3%. That's at the last count. We've not had new numbers out. So a lot of people are saying what your party popularly promised people in 2015 called change is not changing their lives.
That may well be a fair statement by those who are saying it.
I think it's okay.
I haven't looked at the statistics. I don't know the percentage of people who are saying what you have just come up with. But I'm not going to go into any contention over that. I think in everything, context matters. When we came in 2015, we were all very clear that Nigeria was not in a good place. There are significant developments that have taken place since then.
Like what? Tell me.
Check out the infrastructure development in the country since this government came into office. Check out also significant developments in the agricultural field. But I am not discounting challenges, and I'm not suggesting that we have met all the promises, fulfilled all the promises we made to Nigerians. But there are also contextual reasons that can be adduced for some of the failings that the government has experienced. One, COVID-19 pandemic.
You admit that the government has failings?
No. Of course, the government has not succeeded on all fronts.
Okay.
Yeah.
The contextual reasons.
No, the government has not succeeded on all fronts. I'm not going to come here and tell you that, even Mr. President will not tell you that we have fulfilled all the promises we made to Nigerians. But there are three central promises that he kept repeating throughout his campaign: security, improving on the economy, and anti-corruption.
How would you score those promises now? How would you score security? How would you score the state of the economy? And how would you score the state of anti-corruption, honestly?
Okay. I would score the state of anti-corruption fairly high, given what we know of what used to happen under the previous administration. 16 years of the People's Democratic Party, particularly under President Jonathan, Nigeria became a bedlam of corruption. And I don't want to go into the details of that because you know. I believe it's a lot better now.
But it's
partly, partly because, corruption is not something that you are going to see disappear completely overnight. No, because there are structural factors for corruption. And there are also leadership responsibilities for corruption. One would argue that we have a leader that most Nigerians, including figures in the opposition, would tell you not only is not corrupt, but does not condone corruption. And that it has a spillover effect on what then transpires in other parts. And you've had more conviction of people by the anti-corruption bodies, ICPC, EFCC, under this administration than we ever had under the Jonathan administration or previous administration. That's on corruption. Don't let's go to find that. On security.
Corruption. How do you reconcile what you have just said now with statements like, if you come to the APC, your sins are forgiven?
I don't know who told you that.
It was attributed to the former chairman of your party, Adam Soshomole.
Well, I'm not so sure Adam said that because I could not see any reference where he said that. But then, what does the evidence tell you? If a number of people came to APC recently, Rufai, and I'm sure you know what is happening to them. I don't want to name names.
You want to name names?
No. I'm sure you know the people who have just come recently.
I don't know.
Who have just come into the party recently without immunity, and I believe they are facing the arm of the law as far as allegations made against them are concerned. So I don't think that notion is correct. If people are not being taken on, it may well be that this institution responsible for that don't already have enough information or actually have no basis to accuse them of corruption. But in cases where they have a comprehensive case built up, I think they're taking these matters forward. And if this is a country where corruption of the nature that you're talking about is condoned, we would all turn a blind eye. I have had calls on behalf of my colleagues, supported by all governors, to challenge a major case of malfeasance as far as we are concerned. You know of the $418 million Paris Club so-called consultancy. I mean, if we are all paddy, corruption, mollycoddlers, you will never hear anyone talk about such a thing in this country. But we went to the president. We told him that, Mr. President, this is not right, and we're not going to accept it. It's only under a Buhari administration that you can have such a thing.
So how far is that now?
It's in court. Okay. And that's what we asked for, that the court should intervene before you start paying people who we do not believe deserve what you want to pay them via promissory notes. So they've not been paid, and that's, at least so far, a realization of where we stand on these issues. On security, we haven't done as well as we really should have done. Nigerians believed us. Nigerians really wanted us to make a significant difference. And if you look at the particular case of the Northeast insurgency, which was the big issue during our election, I think we've made some significant progress. From about 27 local governments that were under control, or at least not under the government control, don't let me say control of the insurgents, it's significantly improved. IDPs are being shut down. People are returning to their homes in Borno State as we speak. Adamawa is relatively safe in the 3 local governments that Boko Haram used to operate. And Yobe is also relatively safe and much better than what they used to experience. However, the relative success in the Northeast has led to the exit of the elements into other parts of the country. That's an area where I don't think we've done enough, because the proliferation of banditry is not unconnected with the exit of BH insurgents from the Northeast, and then they are spread to other parts of the country. We need to nip that in the bud. We need to cut the oxygen of funding that is coming from external sources, and we need to provide our military officers with additional equipment and additional incentives, and recruit more men to address this, because the men who should be in the region to put a final stop to this, they are all over our states. Virtually every single one of the 36 states has a military presence in internal security, because the police cannot handle this issue, because there are not many.
That's a narrative you've put forward. But there's another narrative, and just hear this. 100 farmers killed in Zabamari. The first reaction was, oh, the farmers didn't contact security officials before they went to the farm. Villagers now pay levies to bandits. The governor of Niger coming out to say that large swaths of land in Niger has been taken over by insurgents, that some of them are even approaching Abuja. Prior to this time, we were not talking about insecurity in the Southeast, but now there's insecurity in the Southeast. There are killings. I mean, I saw some pictures out of Imo that only reminded me of the days of Otokoto. Cannibalism has started. In this same last year, there's been uprising in the Southwest, calls for secession. You know, there's an emergence of Sunday Igboho and the likes. All of this, when you look at it, these were things we didn't hear prior to this time. So would you say with all of this that is going on, that a lot has been done to tackle the problem of insecurity?
Well, I can see that alternative view that you have presented. And I think people are reacting to local circumstances. You can't blame them for that. If they're witnessing more insecurity in their region, they're going to say that the government is not doing enough. But you also need to know that some of the things that we say are happening now are the cumulative effect of a built-up. And sometimes the way insecurity operates is that what is not possible under authoritarian military regimes become easily possible under a democratic space, because people are taking advantage of that space to express themselves. Secessionist agitations, for example, which you would not do under a repressive government, because you would be doing it underground rather than on the surface, challenging the authority of the state. So there is clearly that, and it gives a very strong feeling of disillusionment. No one can deny that. I am from the Southwest. I knew what led us to setting up Amotekun in the Southwest. It was agitation of our citizens in the Southwest, and they were the ones who elected us. It's not an attempt to undermine the authority of the federal security system. We just want to provide a complementary support to what they are doing, because they're already overstretched. They're overwhelmed by dealing with all these issues. And if you have a local, if you like, civilian JTF, Amotekun, Ebubiago, and you incorporate them into the security system, because they're local, they know the terrain better than any external force that you are injecting into that area, they're most likely going to be much more impactful in what they do with the assistance they provide to the mainstream security institution. And that's why we've been arguing that we need to have in Nigeria, beyond politics, beyond whether it's APC government or PDP government, we need to have multi-level policing that does not just depend on federal policing as a cure-all solution to all security problems that we have. This is a position that the Governors Forum has embraced, and that we have taken to the National Economic Council and taken to the National Police Council. And we hope at some point, when the National Assembly completes the constitutional re-engineering process that they are on about, this is something that would feature strongly in it. Because taking that on in and of itself would help us deal with this. We now, whether people believe it or not, we are the funders of the police.
Who do you mean we?
The states.
So how do you fund the police?
Fund the police. We buy vehicles for the police. We support them in their equipment. We buy APCs. We run the police. The only thing we don't pay their salaries. And in most cases, we also pay allowances to those who are in our states. But they're few and far between. I have less than 3,000 policemen in Ekiti State.
Less than 3,000 policemen in Ekiti State. How do you fund the police, but if they want to get the final instruction, it comes from the IG? How does that happen?
They're federal police.
But you fund?
Well, I fund the ones that are in my state.
So are you saying
I support them.
that the government isn't funding the police enough?
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not going to go into that debate. But I know that whatever it is that they make available to them at divisional police level, at the state command, it's hardly adequate for them to even fuel their vehicles. So we fuel the vehicles, we procure the vehicles, we buy equipment for them, we pay allowances to those who are in our state, and this is in every state. I'm not talking about Ekiti alone. I talk to my colleagues. So it is the extent to which you have built a positive rapport with your commissioner that would determine whether he carries every request to Abuja. What they will tell you is that, if police is under the jackboot of the governor is going to use it to oppress opposition. And we've seen that argument come up lately with what happened in the church in Imo State. But without necessarily dismissing that, that's the federal police. That is not a state police. So that could happen with any police is what I'm saying. You can use police excessively outside of the ambit of the provision of the law, whether it is state or federal. What you need to do is the mechanism that is put in place to ensure that there is reprimand and accountability for any police officer who is caught up in such misuse of its powers. I think that's what we need to do. And that's why we've argued at the Governors Forum that there is something called the National Police Council in the Constitution of Nigeria, in which all governors are members. Mr. President is the chairman, the vice president is there, the police IG is there. Why don't we use the National Police Council the way the National Judicial Council is used for promotion, for disciplinary matters, and it superintends over all judicial officers, be they federal or state. Why can't we utilize the National Police Council, whose only role now, to the best of my knowledge, and I stand to be contradicted by this, only role now is approval of the appointment of the Inspector General of Police, which happens once in maybe 2 or 3 years. We've argued consistently that National Police Council needs to meet more regularly.
So what you're saying invariably is concerning security, because we'll still have to dwell on security a bit, that funding is grossly inadequate.
It is inadequate.
But I can't wrap my mind around, and I can't juxtapose that with security taking the largest chunk of the budget consistently.
What is the largest chunk of the budget?
Over 2 trillion.
How much is 2 trillion, Rufai?
A couple of millions of dollars.
How much is a Tucano jet?
It's not every year we'll buy a Tucano jet.
No, I'm just saying. Just saying. How much is a Tucano jet?
The range of 60, 70 million.
Okay. Security is expensive. We have in Nigeria today, for a population of 210 million people, we have 350,000 policemen. For a population of 80 million or 100 million, Egypt has 1 million policemen. Boots on ground must be addressed.
But you agree with the likes of Amoteco. And that's why we call for restructuring, which the APC campaigned for when they were about to come in, but they have not delivered to the people.
Well, don't say we have not delivered to the people.
We
have delivered on account of our party. We have delivered. We set up a committee in APC chaired by Nasir El-Rufai, my colleague in Kaduna State. That committee produced a report, a robust report. I was part of the team that went to discuss the report of this committee with the principal officers in the National Assembly. About 12 of us governors from APC went with the report, submitted the report to them. These are the things we hope, Mr. President of the Senate and Mr. Speaker, you will pass this on to the chairperson of the Constitution Review Committee, who is your deputy. Do you expect the president to override the responsibilities of the National Assembly? We've done our part as a party. We've submitted a memorandum
to the National Assembly now.
It is your campaign
promise. It was a campaign promise.
But Mr. President cannot declare this by fiat. If he did, you would accuse him of being a military dictator.
Push for it. A lot of people say
push for it. He's not opposed to it. We've submitted it. Just as others have submitted other memoranda to the National Assembly. Our brother, the Deputy Senate President, and the Deputy Speaker in the House of Representatives are the two chairpersons. Please appeal to them. You, the media, talk to them. We will keep talking to them.
What you're saying, because we're talking about security, is that it is the National Assembly that is holding down restructuring of Nigeria.
No. I am saying that the aspects of our work that has attended to this issue, in accordance with the manifesto of our party, we've done our duty as a political party. We have delivered.
But a lot of people are saying that
the challenge is for the National Assembly. I'm also not blaming our members. For constitutional reform, you need 2/3. You don't just need simple majority.
But a lot of people are saying if you have the political will, you can get it done. That the body language is you don't want to get it done. You don't want to get restructuring done. It's a conversation people are not putting on the table.
We don't want to get it done. I am
word of a lot of people out
about what is going on here. And I'm also telling you the position of governors. I chair the Governors Forum.
Okay. So if you say that now, you've been able to establish that security is expensive, we can't spend enough on it, the 2 trillion of the budget we're spending on security this year is grossly inadequate. Are you then saying, and let me use this as a segue into the conversation on the economy, are you then saying we should borrow more? Is that what you're saying? So how do you fix the problem?
I am not saying we should borrow more. I'm saying we need to look at our priorities. Unfortunately, because we have a challenge with security, whatever else the Buhari administration is doing so well is being swept under the carpet, because all that ordinary Nigerians want to hear is safety and security and sleeping with their 2 eyes closed. I have had cause to go around. I've been to Jangebe when the girls were abducted. I've been to Niger to see my colleague. I was just in Sokoto the other day after 23 people were slaughtered. I'm tired of these visits of solidarity. What people want us to do is to focus. If it means security will take 50% of our national budget in order to stem the tide of insecurity, countries have done this in the past. We should do this, but not just security as military security. I am talking about human security, because it's no use being tough on the immediate. We need to be tough on the causes of the immediate as well. Why do we have kids that are susceptible to manipulation by those who are preaching fundamentalist precepts of religion? Because they're not educated, because they're out of school, because there's poverty. So we need to address the causes of insecurity in addition to addressing current experiences of insecurity. But we need to take them step by step. We need to first stem the tide, halt it, and then move on to addressing the broader questions of insecurity.
So you think if we spend more money, we'll be able to fight it better? We'll be able to get some leeway and leverage?
It's not just a money issue. Money is a critical point to address. I'm also talking about a structural problem. You cannot have an over-centralized security system that is not responsive to the citizens at the local level. I'm also talking about that. That's not money.
Okay.
That is structure of the security architecture itself. But I'm also saying that don't concentrate on just the boots on the ground. Look at security holistically. Food security, shelter security, human rights of the people, citizen security, not just regime security, because that's what we used to have. We dress up security as the security of the president, the security of the governor, not the security of the citizens. And yet what gives the governor most enduring peace is if the people on the street feel a lot more happy with themselves. And that's a longer term agenda. It's an agenda that is contained in the National Development Plan that has just been unveiled in the country. But there are a whole range of things that would happen. If we guarantee security, investment would rise. Public-private partnerships would increase. Government would spend less. There are things that government have no business spending money on, including infrastructure that we talk about. There are those who will put their money into it and reap benefits.
So let's come to the economy. Economic security. A lot of people will say we fared woefully in that. Higher unemployment numbers, higher inflation, the wage system remains the same, the state of our currency. What do you say to all of this? I mean, I don't want to go back to that our back and forth, Governor, on we're on $1 to $1 and all of that campaign, but we don't want to talk about that, all right? So what would you say as regards the state of play of the economy? Would you say the administration you are part of has done well for the economy of this country?
I would say we can do a lot better.
So you've not done well?
No, I didn't say that. I would say that circumstances have also intervened in our capacity to deliver a lot more. And I'll give you an example. There are things that I have had support for here, which COVID-19 had not allowed to happen. For example, I've had a memorandum of understanding with the United Nations Office of Asian Studies to join us, set up 50,000 housing estates here. The team could not even come because they wouldn't be allowed to visit Nigeria, according to UN strictures. And I'm sure there are many projects like that all over the country. In Kaduna, in Lagos, by the federal government that have been affected. And when you look at the world economy, we're actually doing, as bad as things may appear, we're doing a lot better. I mean, take South Africa. What has happened to the South African economy? Also in Africa. Take even UK. Economies have been battered all over the world by this pandemic. And plans have been thrown overboard.
But a lot of people argue that even before COVID, the economy wasn't doing well.
But the economy was doing quite better than this. We've come out of 2 recessions.
So why did we go into recession in the first place?
Well, a combination of factors. We're a monoproduct economy. That product tanked when this government came in.
But that was part of the campaign agenda to diversify and to make the economy better.
And the economy is diversified now.
How so?
Oh, the economy is diversified. When you look at the GDP formulation, you see that how much does oil contribute to the GDP now?
It contributes the largest.
It contributes the largest revenue. Exactly.
Yeah.
But not the largest gross domestic product. Agriculture still contributes that. ICT has taken even over from oil and gas. And the economy is being diversified. Revenue is what we need to diversify and generate more from non-oil products. And I believe that task is on.
But a lot of people say you are doing it by taxing on already poor people.
Taxing on already poor people in a country where tax to GDP is 6%, when averagely it is 15%.
But that's the word on the street. They're like, oh, the new year, the minister says that there are going to be more taxations and things like that. People need to collect more taxation.
Taxation on luxury products. Taxation on informal.
On digital, for instance, that a lot of people say, okay, that's what keep people moving in the economy.
People will still move in the economy. I don't think that, if properly utilized, I don't think people have problems paying more. Naturally, nobody wants to pay more tax. But if you see a direct correlation between what you're paying and transformation in society, a lot more people will.
In a direct correlation between what they pay in taxes and transformation, where there's corruption everywhere?
Because, no, I don't know about corruption everywhere. Rufai, we've had this conversation about corruption earlier. So don't trick me into your corruption everywhere story. I don't see the corruption here.
I mean, you just said corruption for 18 million, to be paid to some people that did some job, that signed letters, Paris Club returns, and you say you fought that in court. So that's corruption.
We're fighting it. Well, I'm not even about corruption. We're fighting it in court. I wouldn't even call it that. But don't let's have a banter. Let's go back to your substantive point. We are in a country where there is a deficit of trust. We need to work on that. As leaders, we need to imbue people with a lot more confidence in our ability to deliver whatever promises we've made to them. And we need to also demonstrate to them that whatever we raise from their toil and sweat, we would judiciously utilize in providing services to the citizenry. And that way, people would know that in countries where they pay 40% of their income, in Sweden, in Norway, they see direct correlation. And they don't mind putting that back into their economy. we have a duty, we have a responsibility as leaders to do what is necessary. But we also have to insist to the citizens that there's no free lunch. I was talking to my town's union leaders just over this holiday period, Rufai. I invited them to my normal Christmas party. And I was saying to town's unions leaders that what has happened to us? Growing up in this Ekiti, my parents, the generation, they were the ones who set up community grammar schools through their own sweat, through their own contributions in the communities. Now, people want governments to build schools, to provide free education, to provide payment of WAEC, NECO, JAMB. These are things, and we're partly also responsible because we offered those promises that we would do those in order to increase enrollment in schools, in order to ensure that opportunities and access are provided for our younger ones. But what that has resulted in is total abdication of parental responsibility in our society. And we need to bridge the gap. Yes, government must do its part, but the citizens must also do theirs in order to hold our feet to fire.
Okay. Government must do theirs. The citizens must do theirs. A lot of the citizens are saying this. They're saying, how do you want us to do ours in a country where the government itemizes some certain amount for the humanitarian ministry to be able to help the people, but the effect is not far-reaching? So despite a cash transfer scheme, the effect isn't far-reaching on the people. In this latest budget, 888 billion is going to be going to the cash transfer scheme, but yet you still have pervasive poverty.
For how many people are on the social register being serviced by that cash transfer scheme? 2 million.
So is that
2 million, the social register that has been put together by all of us. One of the things we've said about that is that this is not a matter for the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs alone. It's part of the top-down challenge we face.
So can I ask you this honestly, is that effective spending that you are putting 800 billion to service 2 million people?
That's what I'm saying.
Is that effective spending? Is that judicious use of resource?
I'm actually agreeing with you that there's no way you can feel the impact of that money. 5,000 naira calculated over that period monthly will probably come to the figure that you have put out there. And it's not impactful. It is impactful to the beneficiaries. 5,000 may not mean a lot to you and I, but I run a social security scheme here for the elderly, and we pay 5,000. And people are deeply appreciative because they don't have it. But to you and I, 5,000 is what you use to recharge your phone, maybe on a daily basis, I don't know. You probably even spend more than that. But in these rural communities, that's a lot of money. So you may think it's not impactful. It is impactful to the beneficiaries, but the volume is not critical enough. And that's where I agree with you that we need to devise other means of impacting the lives of our people. Are there things that 880 billion can do in those communities? Maybe provide water to a larger number of people that then saves them from opportunistic diseases in which our under fives lose their lives needlessly.
So wasn't this thought about first before it was executed?
We are also doing stuff in those areas.
Okay.
The Ministry of Water Resources is doing a lot in those areas. It's not an either-or.
Okay.
This is just to help cushion the effect on the most vulnerable segments of the population. This money is not supposed to go to you and I. It's supposed to go to the poorest of the poor, to defend the defenseless, those who are down and out within their communities. And this money is being distributed. I can confirm. The mode of distribution may be problematic, and even states have complained about that. But to suggest that it's not getting down is not necessarily correct. The impact, yes, I agree with you. The impact is infinitesimal. It needs to derive more bang for the bucks we're spending on such activities, and we need to be more creative about our social security investment scheme.
Still on the economy, can you justify the debt in Nigeria for me? You know, from about 10 trillion thereabouts, going to about 41, 42 trillion now. The zeitgeist of the conversation is, oh, it's been spent for infrastructure. But a lot of people are saying people are still poor where they should be catered for socially. So can you justify the high debt number? Can you sort of like do a cost-benefit ratio analysis for me?
Well, you know, you can never quantify the impact of infrastructure. As a matter of fact, it is a trigger for economic development in most countries. However, we're always going to find ourselves in this invidious debate about borrowing is too high. If government just sits down and pays salaries, Rufai, the same citizenry will come out and say the government is doing nothing. All they're doing is paying salaries to just a few people, less than 2% of the population, gulping 80% of the revenue of the country. So we are in a choiceless situation. But leadership is not about making excuses. The president has made a choice. And his choice is, I would rather leave Nigeria with better infrastructure after my 8 years in office. You may not agree with his choice. You may want him to just sit on his back, pay salaries, run operational costs in government, and then move on after 8 years. Without River Niger Bridge, without Lagos-Ibadan Road, without... Even at this, when people talk about this, what are they talking about? Rufai, the budget of the Federal Ministry of Works is $1 billion, 460 billion naira. What's that? The infrastructure stimulus plan by President Biden. I mean, I'm not comparing us to America. You know what it is that has just been passed. So I believe that it's not an either-or. We need to address the poverty challenge that we have in the country, but the way to address it is not by doling out money to people. Is by creating an enabling environment. Nigerians are doing well in certain areas where they don't have government strictures. Look at what we're doing in the creative industry. Look at what our young ones are doing in entertainment. Look at the number of unicorns that have emerged in IT without government support. So why don't we do something in providing the necessary enabling environment for young Nigerians? They're the future. In fact, they're the present.
A lot of people say government is not providing multiple taxation with a lot of problem with...
Those are issues we must address. Those are issues we must address because these guys are flying and they're flying beyond Nigeria. They're the go-to people in other parts of the world.
To pull them down, to clip their wings.
We must do everything to resist that. Even those of us in government must do everything to resist that. We are promoting them here.
Okay.
We're promoting them wherever we have opportunity to do so.
Okay. So let me come back to you on Ekiti State. This is your last year. Yes. You've had a good run. You know, you were in once and you came back. And I mean, what would you say if you take a panoramic view at your 2 terms? You know, what would you say to the people of Ekiti State? That's going to be number one. And afterwards, I'd like to know your views about the upcoming elections. Who are you supporting? Who are you pushing? Who are you getting behind in your state?
Thank you, Rufai. I knew you were going to come to this, and I'm glad to talk about it. First, I would thank Ekiti people for the extraordinary opportunity that have been given to serve them and be in charge of the state. It's an incredible state, great people, sometimes very difficult and tough to please, but generally fair in the way they respond to governance challenges. And I would say that they've given me the opportunity, one, to improve on the quality of education, to improve on access. I was looking at the numbers. We have increased primary school access enrollment by no fewer than 50,000 pupils, taking us to the tops of enrollment in the country. We have increased secondary school access, building new schools, providing instructional materials, training teachers. We've done the same. Added another university, a polytechnic, increased support to the main university, started a knowledge zone. There are private universities that are running here, and yet our population may be said to not really be large enough to accommodate that. But Ekiti, we're known for two great things: education and agriculture. And for me, it's turning that passion for education to wealth-creating opportunities. That is something that I have focused my attention on. I'm also grateful to our people for allowing me the opportunity to begin to improve on that agricultural development, from being subsistent farmers to being commercial farmers. We've brought Promasido here. Today now we're producing 2,500 liters of milk out of Ekiti State every day through our partnership with Promasido in running our Ikunderi farm. We have new rice mills, we have cassava mills. We are working with our various crop and cash crop and food crops associations. Agric is a mega issue for us in Ekiti, and we want it to even be transformed beyond that. That's why we're putting an agro-cargo airport in the state currently being constructed. We are also doing a lot on infrastructure. You can never do enough, but we have to just keep going at it, improving the road network in the state, and we probably have the best internal road network in southwestern Ekiti State. You can say we're small, but that's what it is. But we still have challenges with some of our federal roads in the state that we've been working on with the federal government for some time, and I'm still focused on that, particularly the Ado-Ekiti-Akure adjoining road. So really, I believe, just as you said, I've had a good run. People are a lot happier. They get their salaries as and when due. They don't miss it, unlike what used to happen in the past. And that has given them the opportunity to predict. We have people gaining more access to micro and small, medium scale support in their local enterprises, trader associations, markets.
It's been a lot done in a while, and
a lot done, but there are still a lot to do. There's still a lot.
Do you think that puts you in a good pedestal to be able to, support somebody and people will listen to him in the next election? Who are you supporting in the next election? I just want to get down to the chase.
My party.
Your party.
My primary responsibility is to ensure that all Progressive Congress returns as the government in the state. That's how I describe my responsibility. And we have quite a number of good people who have thrown their hats in the ring. Now, the last time I checked, about 6 of them. To the best of my knowledge, they come with different qualities and experiences. And I don't think there's any of them that would not do well if given the opportunity to run the state.
So let's move nationally. After Ekiti State, there has to be something next. As a politician, you've been former minister, you've been governor. You're running for president, right?
I don't think I've said that.
No, I mean, you're running for president.
Why do you think I'm running for president?
Yes, so I'm just asking you frontally. Okay. Are you running for president?
I haven't come to that decision.
Why?
Because
It's the peak season.
Well, it's 2022, but there are a range of factors to put in place. The first is finishing well here. Finishing well here would put me on a pedestal for that kind of interest that you have described. But there's no doubt that it's not about running or not running for president that Nigeria requires at this point in time. Yes, I know there's a lot of people who believe that, look, let's just move on. This government is done. It's what happens in 2023 that should concern us. I give them their right to such a view. But what is important, we're at a critical juncture where I don't want to say at the precipice, but we're at a time where what we need is to move beyond politics, to move above partisanship.
You need a leader to be able to steer the ship.
Yes, a leader would emerge.
Would you like to put yourself forward? Do you think you have to do it?
If you're talking capacity and competence, there's no question about that. I mean, I've been governor twice. I've been a federal minister. I am an international scholar. I have a sense that, yes, given the opportunity, I can do that. But that's not where we are right now. I think we need a collective position to save and rescue our country. From all the secessionist agitation, all these resentments in and around the country, we need to come together and help President Buhari finish well. That is the task of the moment, not who gets to be president. In due course, that would happen. But for now, I'm going to be part of that process because I'm chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum.
You're going to run primaries. Presidential primaries.
I have not said that, Rufai. I will cross that bridge when I get there. We're not at the stage of deciding who runs at the primary or not. We're at the stage of deciding our convention and electing officers of our party.
I'm asking you this frontally. A lot of Nigerians want to know because a lot of Nigerians consider President Buhari this year as lame duck president. And that's the zeitgeist everywhere. You know, once you get into your penultimate, there is a lame duck. He'll just oversee this year. Nothing much can be done. Then elections, voila, comes in and around 2023. So people want to know where they stand now, where all of that stands. And that's why I'm asking you this.
I'm saying to you that even Kayode Fayemi, who is going to exit before President Buhari, does not consider himself a lame duck governor yet. I'm still telling you that I have things to deliver between now and October when I leave the scene before I start thinking about whether to run or not to run. Let's focus on the Nigeria agenda, the agenda to keep Nigeria together, but to do it on the basis of equity, fairness, and justice to all Nigerians. That is what we need to do now.
So since you've not given them a word that you're going to run, there are a lot of people that have been pushed forward. We hear Oshibajo, Vice President Oshibajo, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, great indication as regards that. Who would you support? Would you support any of them?
Just told you that we're not at that stage. I happen to know this. I happen to know these two leaders of our party very well. They come from my part of the country. One of them is a good mentor of mine, Bola Tinubu. The vice president was my lawyer at the tribunal, so I can tell you that I am fairly knowledgeable about their competence and capacity, and certainly they do. But we'll get to that bridge. We'll cross it.
We'll cross it when we get to that bridge, but you say we have to collectively support the president. Let me ask you this as we start to wrap up. What do you think this administration could work more in 2022 or could have done better?
Security. Certainly, if we need the monster of security, the opinion in the country will change dramatically.
Somebody said in 17 months you can change the order, the trajectory of the security situation. Said in 17 months you can. Do you believe that?
I believe so.
How? How's it going to be done? I mean, you did your doctoral thesis in war studies. So I'd like to pick that international scholarly mindset as regards that. How can it be done in 17 months? That was something that wasn't done in about 7 years. How can you do it in 17 months?
Well, there's something called order of battle, which in itself is the security architecture. If we determine that we want to go after these people without minding too much attachment to human rights issues that may come up from the international community, these people are not ghosts. The bandits, we know where they are. So you can neutralize them and then begin to have the opportunity. It may not be completely finished under this government, but you can do that part of it under this administration. Neutralize all these elements that are responsible for the chaos that they've thrown our nation into. Unless there are people within the security institutions who are benefiting from the war economy itself, there's no question that they know what to do. And we can fix this in 17 months. I'm convinced.
Okay. I'll ask you this. Leading up to 2023, do you think the APC can campaign on its record in these 8 years?
That's the only thing we're going to have to campaign on. But we're going to have to compare that with the record of the PDP and whether PDP has learned any lesson from the chaos and colossal tragedy they put this country in before they were thrown out of office.
What records do you think the APC will be campaigning on in 2023?
What record?
What have you done? No.
Improved security. It is still not there. But go and ask Governor Zulum what he's experiencing now and compare it to what my brother Kashim Shettima experienced when he was governor. And the entire Northeast, what is going on there. This government can campaign on that. This government can campaign. A number of the things that you're seeing are bad as the infrastructure situation of the country still is. We've witnessed significant improvement in that aspect. Go to those farmers who have benefited from AXMI's fund, from the CBN, those who have benefited from the Anchor Borrowers Fund, those who have been able to increase their yield and the capacity, unfortunately now affected in some cases by the bandits who have invaded their farms. But significantly, there are signs of improvement. We're not where we ought to be. We're not where we want to be. But we're definitely in a better place than we were when we came in.
So those are the things to campaign on. And when you campaign hard...
We're not going to release our campaign secrets to Arise TV. Wait till that time. We will campaign on what we have to campaign on.
Great. So what would you tell an average Ekiti child that has watched you grow over the years? You're a grassroots person. You came out of the grassroots. And you've got into this position, and he feels hopeless. I just want this to be inspirational on the first day of the year.
Hopeless. The average child sees possibilities. Just as I say, I went to a school down the road there, Christ School Ekiti, less than a kilometer from my office. So I go there to see the kids. I'm actually the president of my set's alumni. And the fact that somebody who was a 10-year-old in that school 40 years ago has found himself in this office is inspirational to them and to all kids. I tell kids when I go to school that the reason why we're giving you this access to go to school and paying for you to go to school is that you can become not just a governor, but a better person than the governor in future. And if I can do it, you can do it.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Really appreciate you. It's been nice spending my New Year Day with you. That's about all of what we can take today on this Arise special and Arise exclusive, the very first day of the new year. We've been talking to Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State. He said a lot of things about national issues. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Rufai Oseni. Thank you.